Welcome to the Brute Strength Podcast, bringing you worldwide experts from all areas of health and fitness. We cover training, nutrition, coaching, and mindset. Welcome your host, strength and conditioning coach, 2012 and 2013 CrossFit Games champ, Michael Cazue. Mind, body, brute.
What's up, guys? This is Mike Cazue, and you're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. This week's guest is Hannah Eden. Some of you may know her as @Hannah Eden Fitness on Instagram. And for those of you who don't know her, she's the owner of the Pump Fit Gym and Train with Hannah online training programs. Hannah is a super inspirational, motivational fitness guru, and we actually don't talk about fitness much at all on here. Instead, we talk about her transformation going from a career that she thought she would love and really ended up not fulfilling her and not being what she wanted to do. And I think that's something that almost everyone can relate to at some point. And so I think it's going to be a really useful thing story for a lot of you to hear. We talk about overcoming fear and taking risks in life, as well as the difference in achievement and fulfillment and what we really need to be happy. We talk a lot about different mindset shifts that she's gone through and that I think can help you approach life better, be more successful, and even happier. And in general, I think this show is great for anyone who feels like you're settling somewhere in your life and you just want more. Before we get started, do a couple things for me if you haven't already. I would love for you to leave me a review on iTunes and share this episode with someone that you think may enjoy it. Enjoy the show. Hannah, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you are a super inspirational person. I actually, my wife looked at my calendar this morning. She's like, "Who's Hannah?" And I was like, "She's an inspirational fitness guru." And she said, How do you get defined as an inspirational fitness guru? And I think we came up with something like you have to have at least 1,000 #inspo mentions on your Instagram. Something like that.
So did I fall into that category?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've got hundreds of thousands.
Awesome.
Like I was saying, I'm super, super pumped to be talking to you today. You talk a lot about one of my favorite topics ever, which is if you don't love what you do, change it, and change it now with some urgency. And you have done that in your own life. And so I want to hear that story of how that all transpired. And I want to hear, and I want to give the listeners some food for thought on what they can do if they're kind of feeling stuck or in a career that they don't love, or they're settling in some area of life. I think that would be really valuable for people. So before we get into that stuff, I want to start out. As I was researching about you, I saw that you already did a 230-mile race for charity, and then either have done or are going to do an 850-mile bike and foot race. What's up with these? That's insanity.
It is insanity. I guess that's a great way to kind of break the ice here. So the first adventure that I went on, which was my first kind of experience doing anything on such a grand scheme for charity, was an invite. I was invited to join someone else on a mission through 230 miles through Haiti. So we drove in and we dropped outside of Port-au-Prince, and we ran all the way up to Cap-Haïtien to the northern point and all the way back down into a town called Hinch, where there was an orphanage full of hundreds of kids that probably don't have any parents due to all the natural disasters that have happened in Haiti. And it was just an incredible experience. We did that over 4 days, and I broke myself. It was an amazing thing because the entire way through you constantly remind yourself that it's not necessarily for you and that it's so much greater than that. So you kind of make your way through it regardless of the feeling and the circumstances that kind of come along the way. Now, like I said, that was an invitation to something that wasn't really my mission. But I didn't quite understand what I was doing it for until I reached that final mile. I hadn't been to the orphanage before. I hadn't had the opportunity to physically touch and hug and get to know these kids. So it was kind of a a great thing, but it was more of a challenge, like this is a physical challenge. Let's see what I can do. And physically, I got destroyed. I went in there extremely cocky, thinking, I'm fit. I'm extremely fit, even though I was not a runner. I came from a CrossFit background, trained on an intense level. I'd like to say I'm an advanced or like an elite athlete. But it was very humbling because within day one, my body checked out before my mind even got a chance to be tested. And that became so frustrating for me because it was just a constant battle of fighting the pain rather than be able to kind of be in a really empty space where it's just you and your thoughts and you either move or you don't. So with that experiment and that first adventure, I realized that that's what was driving me. And I got to a point in my career where I was doing all these incredible things, and it was very much in social media and through print and magazine and being featured. And it was very, I don't want to say vain, but it was in a world of vanity that is not necessarily who I am or kind of what I stand for. But along the way, as this influencer, it's all about appearance and trying to draw attention. But I kept feeling empty every time I got there. And this is like on a personal side, man, I remember getting my first DVD with Women's Health. Like, that's such an incredible accomplishment. But sitting on my hotel room that night thinking like, this is incredible, don't get me wrong. And I'm so grateful for these opportunities, but this doesn't drive me. Like getting my hair and makeup done and looking pretty and making sure that my outfits match, like this is part of it, but this isn't like giving me that feeling that I'm trying to chase and find, right? Mm-hmm. And when I did this charity work, I'm like, man, that is what drives me. Like, that's where I figured out that, okay, maybe I need to start exploring in this kind of area to try and satisfy my own selfish needs of being satisfied, feeling like the comparison of fulfillment versus achievement, like I was achieving all these things, but not feeling that fulfilled. And then that kind of sparked that interest. And then I did a lot more community charity work locally in the community, and kind of time went by, a year or two went by. And then unfortunately I got hit with the most devastating news of my life, which was a really great close friend of mine was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer in November last year while being 6 months pregnant, which kind of stopped me in my tracks. And again, kind of brought me back to that similar place of like, what am I doing? Why am I doing all of this? Like, I feel kind of lost, and you selfishly stop when something so bad happens to someone so close to you, and you immediately go like, am I cool with where I'm at in my life? Would my friends be by my side if I was dying? Like, who would support me? Who would take care of my kids if I was, you start to question everything. So whenever this happened, I immediately kind of like hit rock bottom. But as an influencer, and, everything is so public, I had two choices, which was to your point. What do I do here? Do I react like I want to react, which is just crawling up into a ball, getting on social media, either A, avoiding the subject entirely and not talking about it and hiding that from the people that look up to me for positivity and like all of this strong, unstoppable, like on this high all the time and always happy? Or do I take this as an opportunity to show people, okay, shit just hit the fan in my life and I have no fucking clue what to do. But I have a choice, which is either to try and do what I think is great by using my social media to do something good with this and draw attention to this terrible situation and try and take action, because, there's nothing that I could say or do and words weren't going to change the situation. It's terminal, which we all know what that means. We don't know when, but we react and we have to do something. So I immediately called Jess and was like, wow, if I ran, this is to tie it back to Haiti, 230 miles through Haiti for an incredible cause, but a cause that I don't really know and it's not close to my heart, but this is my family. I have the closest, smallest group of friends. Like, I haven't missed one of her birthdays in the last few years. I watched your son. I was there the day your son was born. We were there at every birthday. Like, this is family. Like, what do you do? So I immediately called Jess and was like, I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to do something, because she was the most goal-driven person. And I'm like, she needs a visual to work towards, because every day was just like a roller coaster. 1 minute she wasn't going to make it 24 hours. The next minute she was, the baby wasn't going to make it. Then she was. It was just a disaster every day. So I went home and Googled Iceland, because the climate I thought could be a great comparison to tie to the story of every day is so unpredictable. The weather changes every 5 minutes. 1 minute sunny, the next minute you can't even see or walk because the fog is so strong. And that's kind of similar to Jess's, fight through this terrible disease, which is like every day is so unpredictable. 1 minute she's good, the next minute she's going to last for 5 years, and it's all over the place. So we try to kind of give that as an idea of something to tie along with the story. And then I went home and Googled it, and Jess started Googling it. And I'm like, wow, this is really reality. Like if I say something out loud, like we need to make this happen. I knew that running wasn't going to be possible to do the 800 miles, but I wanted to do something that would complete a full circle, right? So I didn't know whether Jess was going to make it. The idea in my naive mind at that time is that Jess was going to be alive and she was going to be at the finish line. And so does she. She truly believed that. Like July 9th, I got to be there and I'm going to stay there while Hannah does this for 9 days. And I'm going to be there on July 18th to be at the end to see her through with my 2 sons, you know, her 2-year-old and her newborn baby that survived and her husband. And that was the goal. And then, you know, things didn't work out that way. And things deteriorated really quickly, which just fueled me up even more on a personal level to complete this mission. It consumed me. It was my way of kind of pouring all this negative pain into something that I could kind of release, because fitness was an outlet that I knew, and it's the only outlet I knew. And from being kind of like a control freak, I felt like I needed to do something, you know. So what better way is there than to bike ride and run 800 miles? And that was the entire leap of the ring road. And it kind of like a joke or a false reality became true. And I mentally believed that I could do it. And I'm pretty sure that's the only reason why I could get through it. And I fucking did it, you know, and that's something crazy, which we can talk about more about the mindset and pain and kind of relativity as far as the human mind. I just learned so much about the human body and the mind while on that journey. So those are the 2 crazy things that, you know, may be a good introduction to kind of who I am. And then I'm crazy.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Man, what a tragic and beautiful story. I think it's like, that's just like life in general. I think the 2 polarities of just complete destruction and creation. And you use that experience to be able to create something new and just spread this super positive message to all of the people that look up to you, and really do something for yourself and to solidify that you're about fulfillment and you're about more than achievement. Where did you get that distinction from? Like, where did you learn that language, and how did you make that switch for yourself?
You know, Mrs. Doubtfire.
No way.
You know, like, I've totally had a brain fart. I can't believe it. Robin Williams.
Yes.
That was something that someone said about him, you know, like from the outside in.
Right.
This guy's got everything. He's a comedian. He makes everyone laugh. He's so successful, whatever this word success means. And, you know, everyone looks up to him when he walks in a room. Everyone's happy. But is he? Clearly not, if he hung himself. And at the end of his life, you know, like throughout his career, I think people were falsely shown this, like this idea of this guy, of this being positive and happy. And if he's succeeding, that means that he feels like fulfilled. Well, that kind of rung a bell to me, like, wow. You know what? From the outside in, life is great, right? Life is amazing. And that's kind of where I tie it back to why I'm so raw and real, because that's a false reality. And people that come into my business that try to kind of walk with us on this journey that we are taking, so many people come in the door and have no clue what it takes. You know, they see this false perception on social media that it's all laughing and fun and games and traveling and we get to go on planes and jet setting. Well, no, dude. We also clean the trash and scrape the shit off the toilets every night. That people don't show you those parts, you know, like that's the reality of it. And then to tie it back to the Iceland, it's like, well, you're right. I did want to do something to solidify that I'm about fulfillment, but I also wanted to open this as an opportunity to let people know that like, this is me doing something selfish for what I need right now, but I want to use my social media to do something good with that. So we opened up, Jess was my why and my reason as to why I'm doing this, but how does Susan feel about her dad that just passed away? Or George's wife is dying in bed right now, you know, and he's got 3 kids at home. So we wanted to open that up to the world and to everyone that kind of followed our journey and say, I want to dedicate not just these miles to Jess, but to someone that meant something to you. So please write me a story that I can read to keep myself in check and remind myself why I'm doing this, that it's not for me. The pain will go away. The stress fractures will heal. You know, the exhaustion I'll get back to where I was. But the pain that these people have been through or they will be going through for the rest of their life is not comparable. And so we did that. And so every day we dedicated a mile to someone and we're able to use this as an opportunity to do something great with social media. And we raised a lot of money. We raised almost close to $75,000 with Nordic Track and aligned with some of these incredible companies with iFit that donated $1 per mile. Like, we did something in a situation where we could have crashed and burned, and we reached out to everyone we knew that knew who I was truly, that would support what I would want to do with this, that companies that really believed in me, not for the red hair and the burpees and the this and the that, but like for who I am as a human. And they had my back every step of the way. And they sponsored the trip and they kitted me out with the best gear. And it was like, yeah, I'm advertising their product, but I would love to, because it's through a good channel and doing this for a good cause. So it's like I'm learning so much about life and about myself, and I'm trying to share those experiences with people that don't necessarily have a voice or maybe even the confidence to stand up and do those things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's very inspiring. And I think that's something that literally anyone can learn from and kind of put themselves in check. I think all of us probably have at least one area of our life where we're doing something because we think we should, or because it'll look good on social media, or our parents told us that we should, and we're not doing things out of in lieu of fulfillment, right? We're just chasing achievement, and I know in my life it just doesn't fill the cup. It fills a very tiny cup that needs to be refilled over and over and over and over and over, and it's there's no peace in that. And so I think that's something that everyone can learn from. So
absolutely.
When did the shit tickets come into play?
This is so funny. So whenever you sent me the microphone and there was a roll of toilet paper with your face on it, I'm like, this is going to be great, because throughout the journey in Iceland, taking a shit on the side of the road with your husband next to you became the norm. And that is like so not who we are as a couple. We were exposed through a lot during this trip, but the amount of calories that I had to eat, my digestive system was definitely alive, let's just say that. And so every time I would get nervous. So right before even the race began, the way that they open up the documentary, which I will send you the link so that you can see it, is I just pooped 4 times and I haven't even began yet. Like, it became a norm. So we would never leave the RV without shit tickets, which were toilet paper. And now that I've seen that this is a thing, I'm going to go ahead and definitely steal your idea and print my face on toilet paper so that my team can wipe their ass on it next time. Yes. They take a shit.
Yes. So for those of you listening, I send all podcast guests a microphone to use, and in the package I send a roll of toilet paper with my face printed on every piece. And I forget exactly what it said. Oh, something like someone once told me, in a conversation or when you're interviewing someone, always be vulnerable with them first. And what better way than to, what did it say? What better way?
It says right here, it says, I read somewhere once that you should be vulnerable with your guests before you start an interview to build trust and make it safe for them to be vulnerable. So I thought I'd send you something for you to wipe your ass in my face. I already feel like I know you better. It's awesome.
Oh, so funny.
So great.
So let's get into your transformation a little bit. Several years ago, I'm not sure how long ago this all started for you, but several years ago, I think you started at like 95 pounds. And I think you were working as a bartender and a CrossFit coach. And you were really, really unhappy with where you were in life. So what was the catalyst that kind of gave you the courage to go out and do your own thing?
I look at things as like an experiment that either will go right or wrong, right? And I'm a very my team would laugh at me if they heard this, but I would like to say I'm a very structured person as far as life goes, right? Or working towards something. So I went to school for photography, graduated from the Art Institute with a bachelor's degree. And that was kind of my turning point, right? Which was where I started to learn more about myself. And plus I was so young and in college, and that's a whole other conversation, but it's so hard to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life, and then whatever you do, that's what you do, that's kind of like the way we were trained. And so I went to a school for a skill. I went to school for photography, which kind of like narrowed my choices down as far as applying for a job, having that I have a college degree on my resume. But I had landed my dream job that I had worked so hard to work towards, and I was such a workhorse. I always have been. I had my first job when I was probably like 10 years old, shoveling horse shit on a stables, and would stay there rain and shine and just want to work and saved up for my first horse, like always been a worker. moved down here to Florida from the UK to Massachusetts, and then Massachusetts to Florida. And when I got here, I always wanted to be independent. So wanted to only kind of live on my own dime. I didn't want to have any support from anyone. I kind of wanted to prove myself. So I had multiple jobs. I was working crazy hours whilst trying to get this degree. And then I got the degree and I landed this dream job. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I hate this, but this is at the same time as fitness kind of falling into my lap as well. So but when I went to school, it was straight photography, fashion, like rock and roll, crazy lifestyle, just wanted to party. That was what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Landed this dream job and then realized quickly something about myself, which it wasn't the goal that I wanted. It was the anticipation to get there, or the journey towards the end goal, right? And then I'm like, wow, not really loving this, but I'm going to give it a go. Gave it a go, 3 months.
What's
making a decent, I was a fashion photographer, retoucher for a fashion photographer in Miami.
Got it.
Made a decent amount of money, was definitely into the crowd that I had dreamt of being in. But it was very isolated in front of the computer screen, retouching models' waists, doing their impurities, when I'm like now dabbling in fitness, where I'm finding this whole new side of beauty and redefining beauty for myself, or trying to figure out what that meant, and kind of finding all these other skill sets or personal qualities that I didn't realize I really had. And I was on this job placement list with like a career or a school counselor. And I remember getting a bunch of emails every day, and it was like stressing me out that I didn't want to do these jobs, because I'm like, oh, they're here, they're available, but I don't want them. So I remember a particular turning point, which was the end of 2012, I think, going into 2013. And I went to my teacher and said, please remove me from the list. I'm going to give this fitness thing a go. And I said to myself, 1 year, commit, and this is what I mean by the structured, solidify it and commit 1 year, balls to the walls, 100% living an athlete life, right? So I would only work Friday and Saturday night in the bars. I was an athlete Monday through Friday, or Monday, every other day of the week. So
And you were training to go to regionals or something like that?
Yeah, regionals. I got good quick. We were, I think, first year, like I had some top 100 finishes in the Southeast region. So, and this is a fresh athlete. I'm like, wow, if I commit to this and I'm not working crazy hours, going to school, trying to juggle all these jobs, and I just at the weekends, and I really commit training, following an athlete lifestyle, dial in my nutrition, get myself a coach, have the right sleep, mobility, recovery, like now I'm an athlete, So I did it, and I did for a year, and we crushed it. We finished 16th in the region, and that was the year they only took nice. 15. And that was like, I wish we'd come last place. We did really good. I got good quick. But while I was getting better as an athlete, I was also getting better here, in my head. I started to understand that the idea of setting a goal, and if you set the goal and you did what you needed to do to work your way towards it, 9 times out of 10, I'd reach the goal. And if I didn't the first time, I'd just go back to square one, and I'd always reach the goal. And that's where that goal-driven mentality comes into play. And then I started to feel stronger and more confident. And that's where that turning point was. Like, I had a pep talk with myself. Like, this is the new year, 2013, commit it. I want you to have confidence, kind of fake it till you make it kind of thing. And I did. And that's when I also went to the Reebok contest, and all these things started to come into play, and everything was great. I built this class. It was called Pump Fit at this old gym. I was just living, eating, breathing fitness, and everything was working. And I'm like, man, I'm really onto something. We have this class. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The CrossFit coach said, I was very immersed into CrossFit at this point, at the beginning, and he said, hey, 7:30 p.m. class is not working. We can't get people to come for some reason. Take it. Do something with it that's different than CrossFit. So that's when I'm still in the bar world, noticing, I have friends that don't like CrossFit. In fact, they are against it entirely. But I want to try something new that allows them to come in. So we remove the barbell. We try, making it time-based rather than rep-based. We didn't prescribe weights. We gave that option to them. And that's when things started to kind of like turn around and really go crazy. So we knew we were onto something. I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here to get to that point.
No, absolutely. That was great. So it sounds like it was just a very gradual thing where you built up confidence over time to finally finally completely dedicate yourself to this new direction, right? It wasn't like a single decision. It was a gradual progression. Yeah.
Yeah. started to clean up my diet, started to live a healthier lifestyle, like really see what I could do. Like I kind of wanted to test my own potential. And if it was working, then awesome. And if not, then fuck it. I gave it a year. I gave it everything I could. Let's redirect our future again.
Ladies, if you want to grow, strengthen, or injury-proof your booty, we have something awesome for you. It's really hard for me to take myself seriously when I say things like grow your booty. But seriously, we have something awesome for you, and it's called the Brute Booty Playbook. This is a short ebook that includes 24 different exercises targeting the glutes for stability, injury prevention, and strength. We have common mistakes that people make when trying to strengthen their butt. And we include some of our favorite movements like the elevated sumo kettlebell squat, glute ham raise, goblet side lunge, etc. And all of the movements in this ebook come with technique videos, so you know exactly the right way to do this. So you can get free access to this by going to brutestrengthtraining.com/booty. That's brutestrengthtraining.com/booty. So what do you have any advice for people that feel like they're settling in their career or some area of their life, but they have good excuses not for making a change, right? They might have a career, like a kind of a stable, secure career that they're unhappy with, but they're afraid to change anything because they have kids or family or whatever, like actually valid excuses that are holding them back from taking that risk.
Yeah, I think it's fair. And maybe I was able to experiment with that without having a choice, which was moving from the UK to the US. You know, that was like crazy to me, but it showed me that anything's possible. And I think that's where that mindset came from, because I didn't think I was ever going to leave the UK. I'd lived in the same house for 16 years. And then my parents were like, all right, we're out. And it was like, whew, earth shattering. Like, what are you talking about? This is what I know. And for the first, year, it was rough, but man, then I was able to see that the grass was greener on the other side. And maybe one thing seems so definite for an extended amount of time until you really give it a go, or you try. And that's where my mentality of just try, like I'm so scared on the other side of things, whereas someone that is scared of the risk, I'm scared that if I don't take the risk, then I'm just going to be miserable forever. And that's where I don't know if that's normal or not, but that's where my mind is engraved, is like, if I hadn't have come here, who knows what I'd be doing, right? So I can't look back on that. But if one thing is supposed to be one way, maybe if we shift it into an entirely different direction, that there was something greater around the corner anyway. And when that's kind of proof that's to myself, now I look at every situation like that, like, well, is that it? Or, isn't there more? And I'm so scared of dying without knowing. Mm-hmm. And that's maybe a comparison on the flip side of, yeah, you may be safe. Yeah, you may be comfortable, but have you ever felt what's on the other side of being comfortable? Because it's great. And that is a risk, because who knows? And in my mind, it's like, we can go into this and say, who knows if it's going to work? But my advice is, if you know that you have something good, and that's kind of how I compare my journey, is I was able to build this class, and a lot of people would show up for 7:30 p.m., which is a really inconvenient time. People would travel far. So that was my evidence that I had something good, right? It's like other people verified that for me, not me and my mom that loves me and tells me that my ideas are great. Like other people showed me that I had something good. That if you refuse to give up on that thing, that it will become a thing. And that's what happened with Pump Fit. That's what happened with my hashtag Hannah Eden Fitness, which I was laughing about yesterday, because I remember the first time I wrote that, which was January of 2013, whatever that year was, that I wanted to commit as this athlete and I'm going to make a name for myself. My friends would make so much fun of me and be like, Miss Hannah Eden Fitness. And like, even my boys that are still my boys now still laugh at it. And I can flick them off and be like, look, he's laughing now, but yep. I made it a thing because I believed in it so much that I almost forced other people to believe in it. And I would go above and beyond to get people to believe in it. And then I've never stopped believing, and now other people believe too. And that's the difference. It's like self-confidence and self-belief. And I doubted myself a lot at the time. I'll doubt myself and be like, man, did I make the right decision? But if you don't give up on yourself, then no one else can give up on you. And that's my advice, which is just try. Who knows what's out there?
What do you think the risk is of someone not taking your advice and just sticking with something more secure?
Yeah, I think that I look around me, and especially in the UK, and this is not to be judgmental, but maybe it's also because I left so long ago. But my memory is of people that like worked in the same job for maybe 50 years and they're selling double glazing windows, or they are like, every day is so miserable. But once you realize that you don't have to live that life and you can make money being happy, it's a really scary place to be in, because it's almost like too good to be true. But the reward is there if you're willing to take the risk.
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest risks in life to choose comfort over happiness. But I don't know if it's just Western society or what it is, but we're taught that comfort is what we should shoot for, right? A comfy house and, with AC and comfortable cars and a secure job and comfortable relationships that don't challenge us too much. And we're taught this over years. But what we really, really desire is challenge and deep connections, and all of that takes risk. It takes vulnerability. And so I think it's one of the most tragic things in life when people consciously or unconsciously choose comfort over happiness. And I think there are a couple things come to mind for me when thinking about taking a risk. And the first is this new term that I picked up called a low risk probe. So it's figuring out what's the smallest action I can take in the direction I want to go to kind of test the waters. Because if you're someone with a family and you want to make a change, it might not be responsible to just jump ship and take a new job, because it might completely fail and then you've put your entire family at risk.
Absolutely.
And
that's kind of where my point would come into as well before, that all of these things I'm saying about building this class and doing this and doing that, it was all for free. Mm-hmm. My money that kept my food on the table was Friday and Saturday night, which was a really hard lifestyle to live, because now it's the total opposite than the career I'm trying to pursue. Like, I'm going into a nightclub where there's nothing but drugs and alcohol, and I'm starting work at 10 p.m. I've been training all day. I've napped 3 hours. I go into work sober, and now I'm working till 5, 6 in the morning to make my money. Then I come home, shower, and then I put sunglasses on and drive to a beach in Miami at 7 a.m. to coach a class for free, because I wanted to see if I had something. So I never put all my eggs in one basket, meaning financially, I didn't take that leap. But for someone that's not sure, like I say this all the time, or someone that doesn't really want to leave their job to open that business that they've always thought of. I heard something once from Gary Vee, which is like, no, you go to work and you work your 9 to 5 to make your money. And then you come home, you have family time from 5 to 7, and then you work on your small business from 10 to midnight. Like, you do it in your spare time. And if you're still doing that in a year, then chances are that you was definitely passionate about what you're doing. You're onto something, because you never failed, and it's growing and it's going to become something, you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, but definitely get your ducks in a row.
Yeah, that's great advice. I love that. So now you run this company, Pump Fit, amongst other things, with your husband. What's been the most challenging part about working with your partner, and how are you guys like navigating the different roles in your relationship?
That's such a great question, and definitely one that should be spoken about more. Paolo and I have been together for years, so we've known each other before fitness, before red hair, before everything. We've been together for close to 10 years now. And so it's been a very interesting journey with him as a human, regardless of everything else, because we've kind of had that kind of relationship where we are very flexible, where he's met me when I was 18 years old, like he met me when I was a child, and he is a little older than me, 5, 6 years older than me, that he's allowed me to have the space to kind of like try and find who I am. And he's always had me at an arm's distance, but never try to hold me in too tight. So he's the coolest human for me, because as I've been trying to find myself as a person, he's kind of been there as the rock. And vice versa. We both went through different career choices. Fitness definitely wasn't the way for both of us at the beginning. It was kind of more, when we first met, he was into bodybuilding and I had no interest in fitness at all. And then we both, fell in love, got comfortable and overweight or whatever, partied too hard. And then it kind of flipped around. And then I stumbled across fitness by accident in a point in my life where I was definitely searching for something. And he definitely knew himself a little bit more. And then he kind of stumbled on it too. But through business, it is the most challenging job that I have, which is, at the beginning, it was very clear the roles that we would play, because what happened, where we are right now is not what the plan was to begin. You know, it's an incredible place to be where we are, but we've had to kind of dodge and weave in between, because the goal was we're going to be small business owners that own this gym, and probably will have this gym for the next 30 years. And we have kids and we raise the kids in the gym. And like, that's very easy when you go to the gym and you've got certain daily tasks to run, and someone's going to take the trash out, someone's going to do this. It was like you divide and conquer, you know, it's like as a team. But whenever we launched the gym was doing great. And this is when I'm discovering myself as a person that, you know, I didn't think that this life was for me. This entrepreneurship or this entrepreneurial mind wasn't what I didn't realize I was an entrepreneur until maybe last year, you know. But whenever we were 1 year into business, I had the itch, which was, you know, this business is doing great. I tried to build my social media at the same time. Again, my validation that it's working is that people love to look at what we're doing, you know, because I'm growing on social media and the views are high or whatever else on the insights, you know. So we're onto something. So how do we make this is my ADD mind. How do we make this a virtual form so now people can do it all over the world? So in 2017, I created an online training program, which was recording thousands of videos that we do in the gym on a YouTube channel that are unlisted and linking them to here. And then that's when Hannah Eden Fitness Online blossomed, and we opened up this new business, and now we've got 7 LLCs. And it's like, I never stopped having the itch, but that's when all the challenges came along with your relationship, you know, because now it's like, Paolo is not the same person as me. I am very out there. I'm very loud. I built this confidence. You know, I have red hair. I don't mind being the face of things. He's a little different than that. He's more quiet, more reserved. He's definitely like the yin to my yang. I'm the nuts one. He's the calmer one. So he liked being behind the scenes, but that required then my face to be in a lot of places since I was the front face of the business. That's when we started to have challenges. It's like, now it's not as much as, you know, I don't know if it's just our relationship, as much as a relationship is not 50-50. That's kind of how we had been the whole way through. And now it's like, man, well, I've got to fly here. I've got to go here. I've got to do this online. I've got to do that online. And then I was just always stressed. And then it was dealing with stress. How do you not take stress home? Because now we own our own businesses. We have all these companies. We are our own bosses. So unfortunately, work does come home, because that's all we do is work together, live together, breathe together, you know. So then it became toxic to the household. And then it was like, okay, let's go back to square one. How do we keep this separate? So now we've figured out our systems of leaving our cell phones, and the last email gets sent when you're on the driveway. You can't come in the house until the phone's off. It's like figuring out that.
Oh, say that again. You glossed over that. I think I like that.
You like that?
What is it?
So I'm obsessed, and my brain doesn't turn off, which is healthy, unhealthy. I don't know, whatever you call it. When you own your own business, you kind of need to be obsessed, right? So to the point that I'll write notes to Siri at 3 a.m. and hope that Paolo doesn't hear me. You know, like my mind doesn't stop, which consumed me for a while. And I realized that I just need to turn off, and I can't do it because I'm constantly thinking. So then I wanted to like create a space where it's like banned, you know? So I sit in my car when I come home in the driveway, and I don't come into the house until I've sent my last email. And then it's not that I bring my phone in, but I don't know what it is about that, but there's something about doing it outside the door that when I come inside, now I'm home.
Yeah.
You know?
And the commitment is to be home and not to be on your phone.
Exactly.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
We have a lot of rules around our technology as well. And
it has to happen.
I like to pick up different ones. Cool.
But that's it. I think being mature enough to understand that work or business has become a problem, right? Within the relationship. That's the biggest part of being aware of that, or being humble enough to admit that that's going on, and then trying to go back to square one and figuring out what can we do to better it. And now I'm going, you know, I'm in a place where I feel like Paolo has done incredible things to try and hold up his side of the deal. And now the ball's in my court, which is our relationship has never been tarnished, which is a great thing, I think, because we're very good at being husband and wife, not maybe that great at being business partners, which is what we realized. And now I realize that it's because of the way that I react. So now this is something that I'm trying to work on myself with personal growth as I'm getting older, which is my reaction will determine their reaction. Right? So the way we communicate with each other, and now I used to think the problem was him, but now I realize that it's not him, it's me. And it's just being aware and being able to admit that we need to do something here, you know?
Right. And so how are you working on that? How are you working on responding rather than reacting?
So one thing I've done, which I think is kind of like setting me up for success for my day is, I think people see it from the outside in, and I have no problem with admitting this, which I deal with. I thrive under stress, but Hannah that thrives under stress is not the Hannah that she should be. Like I work really well under stress, but then my friendships, my relationships, everything starts to get taken a toll on. One of the first things I would do would be like, I would be so terrified that I would lose my drive every day because my drive is so high, and that's something that I'm so grateful for, and I wonder like when it's going to burn out. So I would be in fear of that. So I'd wake up every day and make sure that the first thing I would look at would be my emails to see how my day would be. So that's the first thing I'm looking at. Right. And in my mind back then, I was like, I'm going to get lit up and get fired up and like get ready to go for the day. And then as I would do that, I realized that actually that's not good, because my first initial emotion in the morning is stress and like, oh my God, like urgency to do stuff and move at this really fast pace. So now I have this timer set up with daily affirmations and a daily quote that the first thing I see in the morning is like something positive, right? And starts with like this morning was, I am independent, I am strong, and I am able, or something like that. Or my daily quote, maybe, I don't know, there's some great positive quotes that you start your day off with, which has really helped me.
Yeah.
But another thing is reading and meditating. I come home in the day now, rather than reacting, I'll just leave, which I know I can't do forever, but this is my in-between stage, which is where if I feel like I'm going to react emotionally, I will just be very calm and like play it chill and leave the office so I can come home and meditate and just disconnect for a second. It's like I reset a button and then go back in with a fresher energy, because I understand that I consume the stress and other people can feel that, and it's going to become evident on our team and people can read it, especially when they get comfortable with me. You can definitely read stress, when you know someone even.
Oh, that's great leadership. That's really great leadership for you to be aware enough to notice that about yourself and to consciously do the work. Because
I'm definitely got a long way to go.
A lot of people don't see the direct correlation in how they feel inside, how they react, and the effect that has on their team.
But you know what? That the turning point for that was Iceland on day 4. I remember it. And it was such a vivid moment for me. And this is where like my life changed and my personal growth, or the willing to be better, changed, right? Which was, I'd always thought, and I always kind of like, it was a pet peeve of mine when someone had like an excuse for something, or blamed something on someone, or the reason why they were at this point in their life was because of X, Y, and Z, or almost like using your past to define your future kind of thing, which we've all been through different things, some more extreme than others. And I don't want to ever offend anyone and say that my battle is worse than theirs, or that's not about that. Everyone's battle is as bad as their own, But on day 1 through day 4 of this journey of biking and running over 100 miles a day in Iceland, where there's nothing but the entire world working against you, wind, terrain, weather, hills, you're at your rawest, I don't even know if that's a word, at your most raw moment, and you are extremely vulnerable to excuses. And that's all I kept doing was like, in my mind, I was just angry, and like this narrative would go on in my head. It's like, I'm sucking today because Paolo lost my fucking bike pump. When really I didn't need my bike pump throughout the entire day, but it was me trying to hold on to something to explain my behavior. Or I couldn't do this because they didn't have my food ready for me. Like always trying to blame people. And when you're on your own and you have way too much time on your hands, and you start to, or if you're cool enough to start to recognize this really ugly behavior, I'm like, oh, this is so not cool. And then day 4 was a turning point. I was so mentally exhausted. I had reached this point of pain where like I couldn't even have anyone like literally like touch my leg. I was in excruciating pain. Every time I put a foot on the floor, I felt like I was broken. Like my joints were like moving, it was not a good place to be. But what I realized is that if I keep talking about this pain, number 1, it's going to make me feel worse. And number 2, my entire team are going to start to feel sorry for me. So then they're going to treat me differently. That is going to cause me to feel weaker, slower, or less able, because they're going to baby me or treat me like a victim, right? And no one's going to do it for me. And what are all these comments and these negative thoughts doing other than ruining everyone else's experience, as well as my own, as well as this day, as well as this entire moment? Everything was just all based in my mind, So I decided on that day that no one is going to do anything in life for you. And I already knew that. but no one's going to coach me better than I could coach myself. No one's going to get up and physically put their foot on the ground because this is my mission, not theirs. And that was where I wanted to take that home and be like, you know what? That's just like life, man. Like, no one is going to do it for you. You want guidance, you can find guidance, but no one's going to actually pull the trigger. Like, that's your job. And it became such a turning point for me that life is a lot better when you realize that it's on your dime and what happened behind you doesn't matter right now. And if you use it as an excuse, it's going to bring you down and everyone else down with you, that you're not going to grow because you're going to let that define who you are and be you. Whereas it's so easy to just switch a mental thought or perspective on a situation. Like, if something terrible happened to you, I'm so sorry, but we can use that as, this happened to me, which is why I am where I am, or this happened to me and I survived and I pushed past that and look at where I am since that. And now the rest is endless. And it's like a perspective and state of mind. And I think that if anyone, or if a lot of people realize that, or understand that it's okay to not be okay, but move forward, otherwise it will destroy your life, then life is so much better on the other side.
I couldn't agree more. It's crazy how the stories in our heads about what happened in the past, or even a story about what we think is happening in the present, can just be like a weight vest that we carry around, right? As soon as we make that distinction that what's going on up here is just a story and we can choose how to act and how to behave, then we have freedom to do whatever we want to do. But it's when we hang on to that story and we're not aware that it's just a story that it really controls our lives in a negative way. So that's cool. Absolutely. That you were able to get that insight on that run. Awesome. And
to add that, like, I don't expect anyone to listen to this and be like, oh, it's as simple as that. But the point is like, my ways of going through or experiencing these things are purely from personal experience. You know, like, trust me when I tell you that my life wasn't supposed to be this way, but it is because I made it that way. And maybe the things that have happened to me in my past are not as bad as others, but this isn't a competition of who's been through what and whatever. It's not about that. It's about what goes on when we go forward. So I hope that when people listen to this, they don't take it as in, oh, it's as simple as just changing a state of mind. It's me, a point being that it is possible. Just give it a go, you know, and don't knock it till you try it.
Right. And having a shift in perspective or mindset is probably the highest leverage thing you can do. That's the lead domino to you accomplishing bigger and bigger and bigger things, or having more fulfillment or happiness in your life, is these mindset shifts.
Yeah. And maybe we aren't able to do it alone. Someone that actually just visited my gym, and I'm extremely impressed by this guy. He said he needed a shift. He needed a mindset shift, and he knew he couldn't do it alone. So he made a challenge for himself, which was a 100-day challenge to try fitness, to try and work out every single day for 100 days and to listen to at least one of Gary Vee podcasts. Now, if you create a habit, things will happen. You know, like, if you force yourself to do something, there's no way that you can listen to positivity 100 days in a row and work on self-growth and bettering yourself through fitness for 100 days in a row and then tell me that there's no growth. That's right. Bullshit, you know, but it's who's willing to make that commitment in order to find that shift. Yep. You know, it's like, how bad do you want it? Are you willing to put in the work to get there? And if you're that miserable, then put that energy into being something else or being someone else.
So I want to talk about a few specific mindset shifts that I think you can help people have here. And I got these off of your Instagram. They're different posts. So the first one is, you said something to the effect that if you stop holding expectations, you won't be so disappointed. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, and I would never mention names, but I think that I had a situation, and everything I write is all true to myself or to life experiences that go on, you know. I think that if someone puts their happiness or their expectations in one basket, meaning in your mind, you imagined it to go this way. Like, you know, I've joined this team and I imagine that with this team that we're all going to become friends and we're going to hang out and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. We're going to grow together. And that puts a lot of pressure, A, on yourself, but B, on that team to fulfill your happiness or fulfill your expectations. And if they don't, which life happens, work isn't easy and it never goes according to plan, then you're constantly going to be disappointed with the fact that they didn't satisfy your needs. So if you remove the expectations and you go, you know what, I'm going to get the most I can out of this, then cool. And I learned again to that mind shift that happened in Iceland. This is kind of relative, but not. But I had an expectation of myself every day. I went in saying, I'm going to do 100 miles, 103 miles a day. It's going to be 50, 20, 30. Everything was so structured. That was my expectation that my body would be able to handle 50 miles on the bike, 20 on the road, and I could get back on 30 miles on the bike. That's without the weather, the climate, the this, the that coming into play. And I crushed myself on day one. We didn't finish until almost 3:00 in the morning. That is not sustainable. And I was so miserable. But I went home that night and had a little pep talk and said, Hannah, your goal was to work 12 hours a day and 12 hours at night. Your expectations were to cover 100 miles within the 12 hours. Let go of the expectations. Let your body move for 12 hours and let it do what it can. And that's it. Every single day I hit 100 miles because I removed the expectation and challenged myself physically to see what I could do. But I removed the pressure. So I was never disappointed.
So how do you have goals without hitting expectations? So obviously if you're doing a race, you want to be able to set some milestones to try to shoot for. What's the trick that you do in your head to have that goal, but not hold on to it as an expectation?
I think if I compare this to the story that we've been talking about, is like, if you look at the grand scheme of things, when you have so much to do, it becomes very intimidating. Whereas if you break it down into smaller expectations or whatever they may be, and you take it one day at a time, and the greater deal of things doesn't seem so big. You know what I mean? And also perspective, like to the story I was telling you before about someone that joined our team that expected it to be like, I'm going to be happy if we go for dinners and we spend 3 extra hours together and we do this. Like, you have all these solidified things of visualizations of what you think or expect it to be like.
Absolutely.
If you could look at it differently, like, this is awesome that I'm able to be on this team. I'm going to enjoy and appreciate all the time that we can get together, but I'm going to use this to drive me. And that's what will fulfill my happiness, and everything else is a bonus, rather than if it doesn't happen, I failed or
Right.
I'm not good here.
I think it can also be helpful to kind of start to put yourself in check, because I think it's really natural to start to visualize what you think something will be like, right? Like being a part of a new team. But then I think it's healthy to put yourself in check and be aware that it might not go as according to plan. And so that then your expectations either dissolve or are more realistic. And so you're not as dependent on it going a very specific way. It's
Right,
more like
and
a range. You see, it could go a number of different ways.
And that's a lot to put on yourself, to put your happiness in one place,
Right.
you know?
So the next one is, you said something like, quit trying to prove yourself to others, prove yourself to yourself, hustle in silence. What's that about?
This is, again, you know, like something that really kind of irks me, which I don't think is fair to the world, is when people try and compare their busyness, or like compare how their life is so much harder than the rest. Like,
Yes, it's a
I
badge
know
of honor.
you probably heard this to say, but it's like, dude, if you're working hard, then you'd be too busy to talk about it, you know? Or hustle in silence. You shouldn't work hard to try and impress other people. You should work hard to try and impress yourself and keep that to yourself and celebrate in silence, you know? Or be humbling to you and to the people around you. I don't know why. I think that got me going, maybe reading something from someone, or seeing people always needing validation for working so hard, you know? Like, I don't want to build a team of people like that, because that's not how I was raised. And I think the way that I was raised helped me have this drive, which was, my parents had nothing, and he has it, and they grew to have everything, whatever that means. And it's like, people always said, like, you're so lucky. There was not one piece of luck in that situation. It was hard, silent work. And my dad made his own bed, and now he gets to sleep in it at night. And not once has he ever tried to ask anyone for approval. You know, not once has he ever tried to get like a high five or a pat on the back. No, it was purely for him and his family to be able to provide them with things that he wasn't able to have growing up. And I look at that situation, and I'm so grateful to have seen that I like to use that now. Like, And that's where things maybe get deceiving. And as an influencer, I should go back on my words and kind of tell people what this life takes, you know, that people look at it from the outside in, like I said before, and kind of think, I want to be jet setting and doing all these things. Well, do you really think that they were born that way? Or do you think that people that live this great, successful lifestyle ate shit for a long time and never told anyone about that until they got to where they are? That's more of the truth, you know? And I think that's important that people know that.
Yeah. I would like to add a couple things here. One, I think a lot of times when people are just completely dependent on others' validation, that is a lot of times a sign that they're doing something just because other people think it's cool or they think they should or whatever. Not always, but a lot of times it's just a sign that they're not doing something that really internally inspires them, right? They don't have internal motivation. Or I think we're largely like, many of us are seeking validation, external validation in some area of our life, some more than others. And I think we have to, again, check in with ourselves and notice when we get discouraged, when we don't receive validation. Because if we're doing something that we're truly passionate about, that, you know, fulfills us, that we feel like we're really making a difference in other people's lives, we shouldn't need that validation. But we've been a lot of us have been given it freely our entire lives, like with participation medals, for instance. Mm-hmm. And so we learn to become dependent on it. And so I think it's also healthy to start to check in on that. And when we're discouraged because we don't have likes on Instagram, or, you know, people aren't commenting on our blog posts we just made, or our videos or whatever, that doesn't mean we're doing a bad job. Right. It just means maybe it's not getting attention yet. And maybe attention isn't necessary for whatever you're doing.
Right. And at the beginning of me trying to build my social media, it was like a turning point. You know, it was like a job. I said, you know what, I'm going to try and build my social media. And at the beginning, it was 100% me just doing things about what I thought I was supposed to do. So I'm looking around, you know, I'm trying to become like a fitness name or create a name for myself in this fitness space. All these chicks, they're in like lingerie, they're doing like these sexy photo shoots. So that's what I need to do. And I remember doing it and actually having a conversation with my husband and being like, listen, I know you might not be very comfortable with it, but this is just something that I got to do. Like, this is part of it, right? And he like was like, you're fucking pathetic, but whatever, you know, like telling me how it is always, but supported it. And I did. And I remember doing that and doing this photo shoot, posting these certain photographs. And then I realized one day that whether or not I knew it, people weren't following me for that. People were following me for the raw things that I was saying, but I didn't even know it then, just because I was so oblivious to what I was doing. And then I remember a turning point when I posted a video with crotch sweat, and I talked about crotch sweat, and that was the highest viewed video that I'd had, and the comments were like 1,000 comments, and I'm like, whoa, I have it all wrong. I had it so wrong. I was so worried about the likes, the this, the that, and then I stopped and I was able to kind of have this out of perspective view, and was like, Hannah, no, you got it all wrong. Like, people actually aren't liking your pictures. And then I started to challenge and test it. And I would do like a picture of me with a camel toe and snot coming out my face competing in CrossFit, and it would kill it because I talk about those things. Like, who else has got a camel toe when they're doing kettlebell swings or something stupid? And then I'd post another picture of me like on the floor being this seductive weirdo, and no one would like it. And then I started to understand that social media is a tool. And the second we use it for validation or for vanity is when we're never going to make it as a social media influencer. Because as much as I am all over Instagram, I am never on Instagram. Like, I have no idea what's going on in other people's lives, which is probably a bad thing as far as my friends go, because I don't spend all day on my phone scrolling through looking for the perfect body or the perfect this or the perfect that. As much as an inspiration, I get creative thoughts that come and go, but I have to look at social media as a tool. I don't feed into the likes. I don't feed into the comments. I respond to as many as I can. I try and stay away from the negative things, but I do think that we are forced to believe that we are supposed to do something in order to get validation from others. But from experience, That's not the case. People are so sick of bullshit, and they can smell it because it's everywhere. People want real, raw truth, and they want to talk about things that probably most people aren't going to talk about. And that's what people are craving nowadays. So anyone that is in this social media space, stop trying to be someone else and just be you, because it's probably some weird thing about you that people really want to know. Or they want to make sure that someone else is going through something too that's relatable.
Yeah, people want to see real people. And it's a really interesting paradox that the more we show people our weaknesses, the stronger they think we are, or the more we show them our imperfections, the more they think we're perfect, right? The more courageous we can be about really just being our authentic self. So that's not surprising at all to hear you say that. And I think as far as like your comment about connecting with friends on social media, I think that's one of the traps that we fall into. I don't think any real connection happens through social media. Real connection happens face to face, or even on the phone, actually conversing with people.
Absolutely.
I think you can get inspiration and motivation and some creativity out of social media, and there's some great things that happen, but true connection happens outside of technology.
Which is interesting, because I had discovered that again within self-growth and this crazy journey that I'm on, that I'm kind of sharing with the world, right? Like I'm trying to figure out these things about myself. And as much as we sit here and say these things about social media, like social media is an incredible tool and is the driving force behind my business, and social media is an opportunity for me to reach people that maybe I'd never reached before. But then when I do these events in New York or in appearances here and there and the other places, that's my opportunity for those people to know that I'm there and to make that human connection. Yeah. And like this online training program I have, like there's a lot of people that follow that are, support what I'm doing, which is so awesome. And then there's another group of people that are straight up my tribe, and they are people that we're on this Facebook group together. We train together. So we have that similarity. So we're going through the same workouts every day. We are very raw and real with each other. And these people now have become friends because they started through social media, but now they've bought a ticket to my next event. And now I've met them 3, 4, 5 times. And social media has given us the ability to do that and to reach so many people, which is an incredible tool on that side.
Hell yeah. I think that's a great place to end. Do you have anything else to leave these guys with before we get out of here?
Make shit happen, man. And thank you so much for this opportunity to chat with you today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is great, Hannah. Where can people find out more about Pump Fit and keep up with you personally?
So my social media is Hannah Eden _fitness. Pump Fits is pumpfit_club. And we have websites, pumpfitclub.com and hannahedenfitness.com as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. I'll speak to you soon.
This episode is finished, but your training journey continues. Head over to brutestrengthtraining.com/SSW and grab your free pack of 32 accessory workouts that you can incorporate into your training and start improving your strength immediately. That's brutestrengthtraining.com/SSW.